You studied English grammar. You learned the rules. You completed grammar exercises. You know that we say, she goes to work, not she go to work. You know the difference between I am and I was. You know how to make questions. You know how to use the past tense. So here's the strange part. Why do you still make grammar mistakes when you speak? You can answer a grammar question correctly on paper, but put yourself in a real conversation and suddenly your brain says, she goes to work. You correct yourself, you hesitate, sometimes you even stop speaking because you're trying to remember the rule, and you start thinking, maybe my grammar isn't good enough. But what if that's not actually the problem? What if you already know enough grammar, but your brain hasn't learned to use it automatically? Because knowing a grammar rule and using that rule while speaking are two completely different skills. Think about riding a bicycle. You can read a book explaining how to balance, you can memorize every step, but that doesn't mean you can ride a bicycle perfectly the first time. You have to practice until your body stops thinking about every movement. English grammar works in a similar way. You don't want to think, okay, subject, third person, present simple, add s. You simply want to say, she works here, automatically. And in this video, you'll discover why you know English grammar but still make mistakes, why traditional grammar practice often fails, and how to train your brain to use grammar naturally when speaking. Because the goal of grammar isn't to make you think about rules. The goal is to make correct English feel automatic. Let's start with a simple experiment. Look at this sentence. He blank to school every day. What's the answer? Goes. Easy. You probably didn't even need to think. Now, let's change the situation. Imagine you're talking to someone. They ask, what does your brother do? You want to answer, he goes to university. But suddenly you hesitate. Maybe you say, he go to university. Then you realize the mistake, he goes. Why did that happen? You knew the answer, you just proved it a few seconds ago, so why couldn't you use it immediately? Because grammar knowledge can exist in two forms. You can have conscious knowledge. You know the rule, you can explain it, you can answer a grammar exercise. But speaking requires something different: automatic knowledge. Your brain needs to recognize the pattern and produce it quickly, without stopping to analyze every rule. This is why grammar exercises alone aren't enough. Imagine learning to play football by only reading the rules. You could memorize how many players are on the field, what counts as a foul, how scoring works, but knowing the rules wouldn't make you a good football player. You still have to play. Grammar is the same. Exercises can teach you the rules, but speaking practice teaches your brain when and how to use them. And this is where many English learners get stuck. They keep studying grammar, but they don't give their brain enough practice using grammar under real speaking pressure. So they know English, but they can't access it quickly. Now let's look at what happens inside your brain when you speak. Imagine someone asks, what did you do yesterday? Your brain has to do several things almost immediately. First, understand the question, then remember what you did, then choose vocabulary, then organize a sentence, then select the correct tense, then pronounce the words, and while you're doing all of this, the other person is waiting for your answer. That's a lot of mental work. This is where cognitive load becomes important. When too many things require your attention at the same time, speaking becomes harder, and grammar is often the first thing that breaks down. For example, you may know that the past tense of go is went, but under pressure you might say, yesterday I go to the market. Not because you don't know the word went, you probably do. but your brain didn't retrieve it quickly enough. This is also why mistakes become more common when you're nervous. Maybe you're speaking to a native speaker. You want to sound good, you don't want to make mistakes, so you start monitoring every sentence. Is this tense correct? Did I use the right preposition? Should I say in or on? Was that sentence correct? Now you're not only speaking, you're also acting like your own grammar teacher while speaking, and that creates even more pressure. The result? More pauses, more hesitation, and sometimes more mistakes. So here's an important lesson. The harder you try to control every grammar rule while speaking, the harder speaking can become. The solution isn't to stop caring about grammar. The solution is to practice until the most common grammar patterns become automatic. So how do you make grammar automatic? Start with patterns. Instead of only memorizing the present simple is used for habits and repeated actions, practice real sentences. I work every day, I study every morning, I drink coffee in the morning. Then change the subject. She works every day. He studies every morning. My brother drinks coffee. Now change the time. I worked yesterday, I studied last night, I drank coffee this morning. You're training your brain to recognize patterns, and patterns are powerful because real conversations are full of them. Take the structure, I want to. Don't just learn the grammar behind it. Practice. I want to learn English. I want to improve my pronunciation. I want to travel. I want to speak confidently. I want to get a better job. Now, another pattern. I have to. I have to work. I have to study. I have to leave. I have to wake up early. Then, I don't. I don't know. I don't understand. I don't remember. I don't like it. These simple patterns appear constantly in real English. The more you practice them, the less your brain needs to build each sentence from zero. Think about a child learning their first language. A child doesn't sit down and memorize a grammar book. They hear patterns again and again. Then they copy them. Eventually, those patterns become natural. You can use the same principle as an adult English learner. Instead of asking, what grammar rule should I use? Start asking, what English pattern can I practice until it becomes automatic? That's a much more useful question. Now, here's something that many learners don't like hearing. If you want grammar to become automatic, you have to repeat it. Not once, not 5 times, many times across different situations. Let's take one simple pattern. I used to. Practice, I used to play football. I used to live in Lahore. I used to wake up late. I used to watch TV every night. Then turn it into a question. What did you used to do? Then answer. I used to play football. Now you're not just memorizing a grammar rule. You're practicing a complete speaking pattern. You can do the same with questions. Take, have you ever? Have you ever been to Karachi? Have you ever tried sushi? Have you ever spoken English with a foreigner? Have you ever watched an English movie without subtitles? The goal is to make the structure familiar, so familiar that when you want to ask about someone's experience, your brain doesn't need to search through a grammar book. It simply produces, have you ever? This is how automaticity develops. And you don't need to practice for hours. Even 10 to 15 minutes a day can be useful if you're actively speaking. But there's one important rule. Don't repeat the exact same sentence forever. Change the vocabulary, change the subject, change the situation, change the question. For example, she works here. Then, he works here. Then, my sister works here. Then, does your sister work here? Then, where does your sister work? Now, one grammar structure is doing much more work. You're training your brain to use it in different forms, and this is far more useful than completing 50 identical grammar questions. Now, let's build a simple exercise you can use today. I'll call it the 3-step grammar speaking method. Step 1. Notice. Choose one grammar pattern. For example, I have to. Notice how native speakers use it. Listen to it. Read examples. Understand the meaning. Step 2. Repeat. Now create your own sentences. Say, I have to work today. I have to clean my room. I have to call my friend. I have to study English. Don't just write them, say them out loud. Step 3. Use. Now stop looking at examples. Ask yourself questions. Demo. What do I have to do today? Answer. I have to finish my work. Demo. What do you have to do tomorrow? Answer. I have to go to the office. Now the grammar is connected to your real life, and that's important because your brain remembers youthful information better when it has meaning and context. You can also turn this into a 1-minute speaking challenge. Choose one grammar structure, set a timer for 60 seconds, and speak. For example, demo. What did I do yesterday? Then keep talking. Yesterday I woke up at 7. I had breakfast. I went to work. I talked to my friend. After work, I came home. Don't stop every time you make a mistake. Keep going because your goal isn't perfect grammar. Your goal is automatic production. After the minute ends, think about 1 or 2 mistakes you made. Correct them, then speak again. This is much more powerful than stopping every 5 seconds to correct yourself. You're training your brain to keep communicating while making adjustments, and that's much closer to real conversation. There are 5 mistakes that can keep your grammar stuck. Mistake number 1. Only doing grammar exercises. Exercises are useful, but they aren't the same as speaking. Mistake number 2. Trying to use advanced grammar too early. You don't need complicated structures to communicate clearly. Master common structures first. Mistake number 3. Correcting every mistake immediately. If you stop after every sentence, you may become afraid to speak. Sometimes finish your thought first, then correct yourself. Mistake number 4. Never speaking out loud. Reading grammar silently won't train your mouth to produce English quickly. Your speaking muscles need practice too. Mistake number 5. Waiting until your grammar is perfect. This is perhaps the biggest mistake. Because you don't become fluent first and then start speaking, you speak, you make mistakes, you correct them, you speak again, and gradually your English becomes more automatic. So let's turn everything into one simple daily routine. You don't need hours. Start with 15 minutes. First 5 minutes, choose one grammar pattern. Review a few examples. Understand the pattern. Next 5 minutes, create your own sentences. Say them out loud. Change the subjects, change the vocabulary. Turn statements into questions. Final 5 minutes, speak freely. Use that grammar pattern to talk about your real life. And the next day, don't immediately learn something new. Spend a few minutes recalling yesterday's pattern. Can you still use it? Can you create new sentences without looking? If yes, move forward. If not, practice it again. This creates a simple cycle. Learn, speak, recall, correct, repeat. Over time, common grammar patterns become easier and faster to access, and that's what you want. Not perfect grammar knowledge sitting inside your notebook, usable grammar inside your speech. So, why do you know English grammar but still make mistakes? Now you know, because knowing the rule isn't the same as using the rule automatically. You don't need to memorize hundreds of grammar rules. You need to practice the most useful patterns until your brain can produce them without stopping to think. Instead of asking, "How much grammar do I know?" ask, "How much grammar can I use automatically?" That's the difference between studying English and actually speaking it. So today, choose just one grammar pattern. Practice it for 15 minutes. Say it, change it, ask questions with it, use it to talk about your own life. And tomorrow, try to use it again without looking. Because every time you retrieve and use a grammar pattern, you're making it easier for your brain to access next time. Remember, fluent speakers don't think about every grammar rule. They practice common patterns until correct English becomes automatic. And don't be afraid of mistakes. A mistake isn't proof that you can't speak English. It's information telling your brain, "This is something I need to practice." So stop waiting for perfect grammar. Start using the grammar you already know. If this video helped you understand why you keep making grammar mistakes, like the video and subscribe for more science-backed English lessons that help you speak, not just study. And tell me in the comments, which English grammar rule do you still struggle to use when speaking? Your answer might become the topic of our next lesson. Keep practicing, keep speaking, and remember, fluency isn't about knowing every rule. It's about making the right English come naturally.